All right, guys. This is part two of the video where I'm trying to help you guys come up with the best materials to use for your face masks. And I've seen some comments and suggestions and requests as far as like the material to test to using these things. Things like coffee filters, Swiffer sheets, and these blue shop towels. Then also had a request to redo the bandana. One lady wanted to know what would happen if you folded it over and doubled it up. Well, I went ahead and tripled it up, so I got the results from that too. First off, I want to apologize. I gave some information that was bad on the N95 mask before because I didn't have an N95 mask to test, which is what we usually do, is like a baseline thing for like engineering experiments. But I didn't have one. So anyway, a friend of mine gave me one of these. It's a KN95 mask, which is the same thing as an N95 mask. It's just the Chinese version of it. So they're basically, it's the same thing. They're tested to different standards, so they're not FDA approved, but they go through the same version of the same kind of testing. But they perform the same, and they're used in the same capacity. So anyway, this one tested at 98%, which see what had happened is before I didn't have an N95 mask, so I'll look on Wikipedia, which is like, that's breaking my cardinal rule of things. But anyway, that's all I had to do. So I was sitting there looking at the screen and it said 70 to 86%. I thought it didn't seem right because I work with HEPA filters and anyway, didn't buy into it. So I tested as soon as I could, and 98% is what this one tested too. So anyway, N95s, 95 to 98% is how that came up. So anyway, on to the new testing, which was kind of interesting. Again, coffee filters, Swiffer Vacs, these little blue shop towels, which were pretty restrictive with the air, so I was kind of expecting something out of that. But what it told me was, basically they don't do anything. They had, every single one of them, they tested the same, nothing improved over the efficiency of the cloth mask by itself. So even these Swiffers, I mean, you can see on this one, it's pretty thick material. And especially with these shop towels, they were very restrictive, so I can understand why people would want to use these because they're cheap, and you would think being more restrictive, it might filter better. But what I found out is it doesn't matter how thick it is or anything, because I know there's some people high up in politics that were saying, oh, use a scarf or use basically the thicker the better. No, that's really not how it works. There's science involved and physics and everything else. And basically what you're doing, you're adding more layers it's making it harder for the air to get through, but the hole size is what really matters, and it's the particle size efficiency. That's what we're testing on these things. What you're doing is you're decreasing the amount of holes that come through, but the holes are the same size. So the air that is coming through is just going to be bringing with it all those particles too. So you're not really filtering the air any better. You're just making it harder to breathe, which doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, really, considering you try to breathe through these things. So anyway, in a nutshell, these last tests that I did with all these materials, you're not buying yourself anything, you're just wasting your time. So I would stick with kind of like what we mentioned before. Do one of these cloth masks with the filter inserts from just HVAC filters or anything else that's made to actually filter air. Your normal residential air conditioners and HVAC units are going to be using MERV 8 through 13. 8's the larger particles, and the 12 to 13 is the smaller ones, and it's made for things like bacteria and viruses. So that would be great. That would work perfect. Lindsay, I saw you mentioned that you had a 12 or 13 in your house. That's perfect for this kind of thing. And if short of that, if you can't get a hold of those, use something like a vacuum cleaner bag would work great, because some of that stuff's made with material that's HEPA rated. But anyway, just, yeah, if you can, stick with the things that use one of these cloth masks. The higher thread count, the better, because that's going to give you those smaller holes for the air to get through. And short of that, put in these the filter inserts if you can. And going back to the diaper thing, yeah, the diaper did test at 98% efficiency, which is great, because if you can find, especially for like older folks, if you can find a Depends with that hydrophobic layer, and as long as you remove that hydrophobic layer, you'll be good to use those. But the thing is, I'm not a diaper engineer either, so those things I have to put this disclaimer out there too. They could be made with something that you don't necessarily want to breathe. Now they're made to be safe for your baby's butt, so they got to be somewhat safe, but at the same time, that's not the same thing as breathing through these things all day. So my suggestion would be stick with one of these filters and yeah, you should be good to go. So anyway, that's about all I got. Now the blue, okay, now these things did increase the efficiency a little bit, like 3 to 5%, but it wasn't enough for the reduction in airflow. So I mean, you're just really, I wouldn't do it. I would stick with those, like I said. But anyway, if you guys have any other materials or any suggestions or something you'd like to see tested, by all means, leave me comments on this video, and I'll respond back to them, and I'll test it to the best of my ability. So anyway, till then, you guys keep yourself safe and take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks again.